Can we please talk about UFC Vegas 48, headlined by Johnny Walker and Jamal Hill? This one is actually a really decent fight card. There are more fights on this card that I find interesting than on UFC 271, honestly. Not saying that UFC 271 was a bad card, far from it, but there are just way more fights on here that I've looked at and gone, now that's interesting. And obviously, that's meant I've put down some interestingly terrible bets. In case you didn't know, that is what I'm all about. I'm just going to run through some fights on this card that I think are going to be interesting to watch. Also taking a look at some of the odds, and I'm going to be putting down a bet that is just never going to come off. Do not go along with these bets. They are awful. If you really want to make money betting on MMA, bet the opposite of everything that I do, because I do this purely for fun, just as a dice roll, like a scratch card, but more fun to watch. Do you know what I mean? So that being said, as long as you keep those stakes low, keep the odds low, and keep the bets terrible. So yeah, let's take a look at UFC Vegas 48. So I'm going to start off in the heavyweight division. Parker Porter versus Alan Badar. I believe it is the first fight on the main card. Now, this is quite an interesting fight, actually, kind of when you start looking into it, because look, Parker Porter, he has been around. He has got slightly more experience in the UFC. He has his ups and downs. I think he's on a 2-fight win streak now, but I mean, one of those is against Chase Sherman. And with respect to Chase Sherman, who hasn't beaten him lately, Chase Sherman just doesn't have a good time in the UFC. I think, honestly, he should go to Bellator. He'll get a decent enough paycheck, and he'll be against people that he can actually beat. Now, Porter, he has held his own in the UFC, kind of so far. You know, he's had his ups and downs, but you know, he's got 12 wins on his record, right? And he's 4-4-4. That's 4 knockouts, 4 submissions, 4 decisions. So betting on the method for Porter is an absolute crap shot. Just roll the dice. So yeah. Now Badar, he's had a tough couple of fights. You know, his debut was against Tom Aspinall. Now, we all know how good Tom Aspinall is. That's a tough debut for anybody. He lost his last fight by TKO, but it got turned over because his opponent he tested positive for a bunch of chemicals that I don't know what they are, honestly. So, were they performance enhancing? There's a good chance. And the problem with that is that Badar, he did get TKO'd, I think, but he kind of lost steam in the second round because his opponent was able to put on a pace. Now, was his opponent putting on that pace because he was using performance enhancers? He pissed hot, so there's a chance that, yes, that happened. So, but Badar's still going to look at that as a loss. Whilst he didn't technically lose because it was overturned to a no contest, he's still going to look at that as a loss. So, for him, I think he thinks his back is against the wall, because you lose 2 or 3 times and yeah, your back probably is against the wall. You probably got to win here or you are not going to be fighting in the UFC next time. So one thing I would say is Porter, he's shown he's very good over 15 minutes. That could be a problem for Badar. As I just mentioned, he did kind of get ground down. He started strong in his last fight, but kind of got ground down a little bit. And I don't think that Porter is going to gas. Like he's shown he's very good over 15 minutes. And one other thing for Porter that I would say is a real leveller, especially for the reach and height that Badar has. Badar does have a 4-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch height advantage. But against Parisian, Porter's low kicks, if you go back and watch that fight, Porter's low kicks were devastating. That's what managed to chop the guy down. So there's every chance that we could see Porter, rely on the low kick early and just chop Badar down. Now, on the flip side, because we're getting some really good odds on Badar, which is probably where I'm leaning here, I'm going to tell you why. Porter is a much more achievable fight for Badar than his previous opponents that he's been given. He's been given a very tough run of opponents. I'm not saying that Porter isn't tough and Porter isn't good, but it's just a little bit of a step down in competition. It's maybe a step down in competition that Badar can rise up to. Because you got to remember that Badar, he's had 8 wins, 7 of which knockouts. So he's clearly got power. He clearly knows how to hit, and also I would say that look at where Badar fights out of. He fights out of MMA Factory, right? Same camp as Cyril Gane. He trains alongside Cyril Gane, and we know how good Cyril Gane is. And when he's watched Badar fight, there is a little bit of a bounce to him. There's a little bit of a kind of, a lightness to him that's not dissimilar from Cyril Gane. He's clearly got good timing, and clearly he does know how to hit. And because he's had a bit of a rough run of form, you're getting 3.25 on Badar just to win. To get the knockout, you're getting 5s. That's 4-1 in English, right? I'm having that. I'm having a go on that all day. I like the knockout here for Badar. I feel like he's got the height, he's got the reach. This is a slight step down in competition from what he's used to. He thinks his back is against the wall. He knows he's got to find the win here. And he comes out of a good camp. I feel like he's probably only getting better. So I'm going to roll the dice on Badar on this one. Badar by knockout, getting +5, 4-1. Add that to the bet slip. And then you've got Shaquan Buckley against Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Now, you probably already know who Buckley is, right? Even if you don't, if you're kind of thinking, oh, where do I know him from? 2020, I think it was the knockout of the year that he did that spinning wheel mule kick, the Bruce Lee cross kick, that was seen around the world, got shared all over the place. I believe it was knockout of the year 2020, and Buckley, to his credit, he does get a lot of knockouts. He's really good fun to watch. He does generally get the knockout. He did get caught against Alessio Di Chirico, the Italian fella, who caught him with a lovely head kick, and it was a huge upset at the time. And that was good fun. But other than that, he generally does just fine knockouts. Just does Buckley. He's very, very dangerous. And I would say that his last fight against Arroyo, he found the knockout in the 3rd round, which is telling. That's key here, because it shows that he maintained his power all the way into the 3rd round. Al Hassan does have question marks over his cardio. They're both built pretty similarly. They're both the same height. They're both the same weight. I think Buckley, he does have a slight reach advantage, but that's just the width of his shoulders, really. Buckley's 27, so Al Hassan's 36, but that's a Ghanaian 36, so who knows how old he really is. You're basing that. It's like when you look at when Cubans tell you how old they are, you got to take it with a pinch of salt. It's like Romero's telling you he's 35. It's like, okay, all right, y'all. So yeah, I think Buckley probably has the advantage in this one. It's only a 3-inch advantage in reach. I don't think it's going to be too pronounced. You've got about southpaw against orthodox as well, so the inside leg kick could be there. But you've got 21 knockouts between these guys. Al Hassan generally finds the knockout in the 1st round. Generally speaking, if he does not do that, he will then lose. I think that's what we're going to see here. I do think that early on, Al Hassan's going to look really dangerous. But outside of that, I don't think there's too much danger there for Buckley. I think Buckley will find that he's got the better gas tank. He'll carry that power better into the later rounds. And it's only a 3-round fight. So I'm going 2nd round. I'm going 2nd round, knockout. I think he's going to get the knockout in rounds 2 or 3. But I'm rolling the dice on round number 2, which is 7.50, which is 6.5-1 in English, which is, yeah, not bad. So I'm putting that on the bet slip. Don't get me wrong. I would not be shocked at all to see Al Hassan just starch Buckley in the 1st round, because Al Hassan, he's on a little bit of a resurgence. He did knock out Di Chirico in his last fight with a head kick. The same man who knocked out Buckley with a head kick. So MMA math is all over the place, isn't it? So yeah. But whichever way this one goes, this one should be on paper an absolute banger, and I am looking forward to seeing it. Then we've got Jim Miller. Jim Miller is still fighting. Unbelievable. He's had like 50 fights nearly. That's absolutely crazy. So yeah, he has more losses than his opponent has total fights this week. Now, this one is always risky, because the thing is, we've seen Jim Miller, he will either lose a decision or he will find the finish. Now, I think Jim Miller is probably a bit too experienced for his opponent, Nicholas Motta here. Nicholas Motta is 12-3. He hasn't really fought many times in the UFC. He has a win in the Dana White Contender Series, but outside of that, he hasn't really done too much. And I don't really see an awful lot on his record that makes me think he's the guy to take Jim Miller out of there. And with that being said, I just don't think, unless you put Jim Miller away, you're either going to beat Jim Miller by decision, which I don't think that Motta's going to do, or you're going to get finished. I think that Jim Miller probably finds the submission here. Jim Miller will find a choke from somewhere. He's going to big brother him. He's going to grapple him. He's going to just make life very difficult for him. Jim Miller's going to use his experience to kind of lean on Motta. He's probably going to tire him out in the first round, maybe even the second round. I think that as soon as he gets a chance to clamp on a submission, he's going to do so. I'm thinking it's going to be a choke. I think possibly a guillotine. And I think he's going to get the submission win here. 4.33. So if I were you, I'd bet the house on Motta by knockout. Don't get me wrong, Motta's got some good knockouts, but none of them in the UFC. And yeah, I just feel like Jim Miller is too experienced to get beaten by Motta. Motta's probably got a bright future, but I don't think he has a bright weekend ahead of him, if that makes sense. Anyway. The main event, Johnny Walker versus Jamal Hill. This is a great main event. It could have fireworks written all over it. Now, for me, the key thing with Johnny Walker is I do think he was overhyped too early. A couple of years ago, after he landed that brilliant, I'm not taking away from it, it was a brilliant flying knee knockout Kirkinov. After he did that, people were talking about him beating John Jones, which is just outrageous when you look at what's happened since. Come on. So yeah, look, for me, even with the win over Spann, it wasn't without, without him getting clocked. He didn't make it easy for himself, is what I would say. Because he dived in to do something spectacular, he didn't time it properly, and he walked onto a big shot from Spann, which almost put him out. And that's the problem with Johnny Walker. He does the complicated stuff very well, but he doesn't seem to know when to throw it. He seems to just throw the complicated all the time. But what you've got to do is that there is a time and a place for the complicated. It's better to do the simple stuff well than the complicated stuff badly. And that's where I think he's going to come unstuck here. Jamal Hill does the simple stuff very, very well. There's nothing too flamboyant, nothing too spectacular about what Jamal Hill does. But what he does is very effective. He goes in and he hits different. When you see him hit people, you notice the expression on people's faces change. When he started teeing off on Ovent St. Preux, you could see Ovent St. Preux was like, whoa, okay, that's different. Oh, whoa, that's different. And then it was game over. Similar with Jimmy Crute. He just overwhelmed Jimmy Crute, and he's very fast. He's got really great hand speed because he doesn't carry a lot of muscle. You can tell that he's not like in there kind of doing loads of weight training, and he's not a huge muscular fighter. Johnny Walker's pretty ripped. If he clearly does some kind of weight training. I'm not saying that Jamal Hill he probably does do some weight training. It's just you don't see him carrying that big bulky muscle around with him, which is a real advantage because, especially when the fights go into the later rounds. That being said, Johnny Walker did go 5 rounds with Thiago Santos in his last fight. And in that fight, I feel like he wasn't reckless enough. It seems like if Johnny Walker could get the balance correct between reckless and just being smart, then I feel like he still could be very, very dangerous. I still think he's got a decent future ahead of him, and we might see the beginnings of that this weekend. Who knows? If you want an underdog that's got a chance of pulling out something spectacular, probably back Johnny Walker in this, because he's quite a heavy underdog. I think he's 4 against, which is 3-1-ish, which is kind of ridiculous. But I do understand why the bookies have him there, because honestly, I think that Jamal Hill's style is kryptonite for someone like Johnny Walker. But it just depends which Johnny Walker we see. Obviously, we saw him again. We're basing it off of his last fight with Santos and what he's done previously. But if he could get that balance right, and he is training with John Kavanagh. John Kavanagh he is a very good coach, and his judgment is going to be quite good. He's going to be reining in the chaos of Johnny Walker, trying to get him to time those attacks more more cleverly. And, you know, John Kavanagh is an excellent coach. I mean, or at least I thought that until he started spouting off about how Conor McGregor was winning the first round against Dustin Poirier. With respect, John, no. no, he was not. Could he have won the rest of the fight? Sure. The fight wasn't over before his leg broke, but he was not winning that round. You're out of your mind. Anyway, moving off from that, back to Johnny Walker against Jamal Hill, which is an incredible main event. I think that Johnny Walker, he's going to be patient like he was against Santos, but I think that's only going to allow Jamal Hill to find his timing, to find his range, and I think round number 2 is where Jamal Hill is going to overwhelm Johnny Walker. You're going to start seeing Hill hit Johnny Walker, and you're going to see the expression on Johnny Walker's face change, the same as it did for Ovince St. Preux, the same as it did for Jimmy Crute. And you're going to see that expression go from, oh, this guy, you know, he punches like pretty lightly, he's smaller, he's got speed over me, that's all, to crack, oh, that hurt, oh, that's different, that hurts, because that's the kind of power Jamal Hill's got. He hits different, he does. He's somebody in this division that I have really got my eye on. Jamal Hill, obviously he lost against Paul Craig, but Paul Craig basically snapped his arm off, and Jamal Hill still wanted to carry on fighting. Make no mistake about it, Jamal Hill hits different. And I think he's going to hit Johnny Walker in the second round. He's going to overwhelm him and find that knockout. Now, currently you are getting 7-1. You're getting +7, 6-1 in English on the knockout in the second round for Jamal Hill. And honestly, I'm taking that because there's no point in betting on the knockout just straight for Jamal Hill. Well, if you want it to come off, yes, there is. But it's only 1.73, which is less than even money, which is just pointless for me because I like my bets to be terrible. I like to keep those odds high because I keep the stakes very low because, as I said, this is more like a scratch card than anything else. Like, honestly, if you want to make money from gambling on mixed martial arts, then you need to have a lot of capital and just bet on the favourites, bet on the most likely outcome every single time. But me, what I do is I like to call it an MMA Scratch card, you know? So you can, basically it's a scratch card and you get to watch some fights. It's very rare that it's going to come off, but hey, Joanne, but it's fun to at least watch it unfold. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I'm putting the Jamal Hill round 2 knockout at +7 on my bet slip. And I'm putting that on the accumulator. So on this MMA Scratch card, I have got Badar to get the knockout, +5. You got Buckley to get the knockout, round 2, +7.50. Then you've got Jim Miller to get the submission at any time, 4.33. Then you've got Jamal Hill, round 2, knockout at 7.00. Then you've got the ACCA coming in at 1,161.33 to 1. That is absolutely terrible. And so we'll see how these bets come off. It'll be Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday next week. I do apologise. The schedule has not been as rigid as it has normally. I've had much more stand-up gigs to be going out to, so it's kind of delayed some episodes here and there. But thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for all of your support. Let me know who you're betting on in the comments, please. Let me know if there's any odds that you've seen that you think, yeah, that's worth a go, because I'm always interested to see it. And as always, enjoy the fights, keep those odds long, keep those bets terrible, and I will see you next time.